This is an intro copyrighted by Nintendo. Next. Master of Warfare. Arms Warrior issue with Apex talents. Let's see. Heroic Nostalgia. A fan favorite ability long removed. Heroic Strike, yeah, to Arms Warriors. By the way, the new Master Warfare Apex talent, temporarily replacing Slam with a much more powerful version that deals additional damage. So what does it do? Let's read the whole talent so you may understand better. Your single target melee abilities have a chance to upgrade the Slam to Heroic Strike. Single target melee abilities. So no auto attacks. All modifiers and talents that affect Slam also affect Heroic Strike. So every buff of Slam also affect Heroic Strike. Heroic Strike 20 rage. Instant powerfully strike an opponent, causing 27,000 X damage, physical damage, and gaining a stack of Master of Warfare, allowing your attack to penetrate 3% armor for 30 seconds. Multiple applications of this effect may overlap. So, you have potential to scale off indefinitely. If it doesn't say at some point it ends. May overlap, but I don't think they refresh the duration. So there's more of the same, but they have a different counter, you know, a different countdown. Each stack of Master of Warfare increase Mortal Strike, Cleave, and Overpower damage by 5% and Critical Strike damage by 5%. Very simple. Heroic Strike reduces the cooldown of Colossus Smash by 2 seconds. To make your class feel a bit, you know, smoother to play. That's cool. But let's see the problem. Since its inception, Slam has been contentious ability for Warrior, undergoing several transformations from the clunky hardcast that reset the melee swing timer in vanilla WoW to relatively weak rotational filler that is today. That's true. The best state the Slam has ever been in, I think, is Pandaria. In Pandaria, Slam was hitting like crazy. Slam was probably the hardest hitting ability. And after that, I feel like Slam, you could have just removed that shit from the bar. If it was not for anger management, you could have very easily never played Slam. Slam continues to fill an important role in filling the rotation while Mortal Strike and Overpower are on cooldown, contributing to tactician and anger management, as we said before. Although Heroic Strike is a major step in terms of power and keeping the ability relevant for more than 65% of the rotation, asking players to press that button more often, whether under a new name or not, can be a hard pill to swallow. Honestly, I don't think so. Because the problem with Slam is that when pressing Slam, you feel like you're pressing air, you know? You feel like you're wasting everything. Time pressing Slam, it doesn't give a good feedback on the impact, it doesn't give a good feedback on damage display, it doesn't give a good feedback in general. It's a shit ability to press, but Slam is not the problem. The problem is what Slam brings to the table, you know. Slam in Pandaria was very cool to press because you pressed Slam and the BAM on the screen. The BAM was there, and that's what made Slam fun. Removing damage from Slam means removing fun from Slam, if you get what I mean, you know? Like, it's not that easy to balance, I know, because if you just revert Slam back to its Pandaria days, it's gonna basically do the same damage as Mortal Strike. It's pretty insane, honestly. It's gonna be pretty insane. But, again, if you wanna, you know, make Slam feel more powerful, then you have to sacrifice something at some point. That may be balancing or may damage of other abilities. Despite this, Heroic Strike performs reasonably well. Although it does not proc often enough to show up as a major source of the damage meter, its individual hits are fairly competitive. Typically the second strongest individual attack behind Mortal Strike, which is buffed by variety. Yeah, Mortal Strike is fully buffed by shit. Let's see. Heroic Strike, DPS of 3k, 5%, interval, total time, count. Okay, let's see, hit. 30k average hit, very good, and crit for 70k, that is a bit below Mortal Strike, so it does hit relatively hard. Also Execute, I'm sorry to say, but Execute is like one hell of a shit ability nowadays. They nerfed the ability a bit too much, in my opinion. Execute should be probably almost not on the same level of Mortal Strike because Mortal Strike is buffed, as we were saying, by various abilities like overpower, like execute. Does the talent with execute still is present? You know what? I don't know. I haven't played Warrior since the release of Midnight, so I'm a bit behind on that. But anyway, execute does fall off a bit on damage. You see that? Where execute damage here, 50k on crit. Feel like it could be higher. Could be honestly a bit higher. Also 23k on normal hit. I wish execute was more on the damage of heroic strike, so 30k and 70k crit on average, you know. And the heroic strike could be buffed a bit more if we want to keep, you know, this low proc rate. Obviously, if you want to increase the proc rate, then I'd be fine with sacrificing some of the damage, because at that point, sacrificing some of the damage would come in as an increase in damage in some way because of the talent that we saw. So you see, 3% armor penetration for 30 seconds. If these overlap, it means that the more we cast, the more damage we deal. So I could see a good balancing being we buff execute, reduce the damage of heroic strike, but increase the amount of proc we get per minute, and reduce the penetrate armor percentage from 3% to 2% or 1.5%. So this way it would remain balanced, the damage would stay consistent, but you would ramp you know, a bit harder than now. So it will be interesting. Let's see. Missing multi-target. Yeah, the multi-target is a big problem, as we saw before, because the proc comes from single target melee abilities. So, yeah. Another thing to consider is that Apex Talent doesn't trigger as often in multi-target content, yeah. Exactly for that reason. The initial proc, which enables heroic strike to be used in place of slam, is explicitly triggered by single target abilities, we're saying, which notably does not include cleave or fervor of battle. Important distinction: Fervor of Battle will cast an already primed heroic strike, but it cannot itself trigger a use of the ability. What does it mean? But Fervor of Battle will cast an already primed heroic strike, but it cannot itself trigger a use of ability. No, I'm missing. So if I use a Fervor of Battle, it does not cast heroic strike instead of slam? Or does it? Oh well, anyway. Between the already low cooldown on cleave and crushing combo, area attacks make up more than 40% of warrior rotation in multi-target combat, which means less chance to trigger heroic strike and less resulting stack of its buff. Sweeping strike compensate for this by giving each single target ability a second chance to trigger the effect, but still we end up with a disparate amount of procs. We see a... Okay. Heroic strikes with 22.6. Wait, no. Average several thousand iterations is an RNG. It's a disparity with an actual proc rate. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Of course, 19.7 to 20.6 isn't a whole lot. Though it's still 15% less heroic strikes, which would be much more noticeable if it were 15% less sudden death, battle lord, or technician procs. In this case, it's hardly crippling, and there will be little cause to care if the Apex felt powerful in its own right. Yeah, that's true. The Apex talent is not powerful enough for us to care about losing this percentage. Heroic Strike reduced the cooldown of Colossus Smash by 2 seconds, average 20 procs every 5 minutes. Yeah, which does more harm than good because it fucks up your entire rotation. Exactly. From and function aside, the biggest issue with fixing Warrior is that investing all 4 points in weapons talents doesn't result in a payout. In fact, it's actively worse than taking no talent whatsoever. Let's see. Promoted as a high-impact capstone justifying the other 3 points spent to get there, Arm's final epic talent just one straightforward effect, reducing the cooldown of Colossus Smash whenever Heroic Strike is used, which sounds good on the surface, but such an insignificant number of extra Colossus Smash casts result in a cooldown desync that harms the rotation more than it helps. That's what I was saying. Increasing the proc rate would also save this part of Warrior, of the arms rotation. With anger management now affecting the avatar in addition to Colossus Smash, those two are kept in perfect unison until the cooldown reduction from the 4th point in Master of Warfare desync them. You wouldn't think that getting cooldowns more often would be a bad thing, but layering the damage bonuses of Colossus Smash and Avatar with other effects like crushing combos, select conclusion, and violet euphoria has a powerful multiplicative effect. Disrupting that is actually worse than my other talent, or not even taking a talent at all. That's insane. He actually has a loss of DPS. That's insane. Apex 4 is awful. Apex 4 is effective and needlessly complicates the rotation, while most of the power is in a second and third point. Yeah, absolutely. The second and third point are the only useful ones. That's why I was a bit stunned at the beginning while reading this, because it's so simple, but it doesn't fit with the whole thing. I mean, you have Heroic Strike, you buff Heroic Strike, and then reduce the cooldown of Colossus Smash. I didn't at the moment think about the rotation, but yeah, that's true. Now that anger management is in the normal tree and also Arms uses it, it does fuck up the rotation. So, let's see, in Blizzard Onwards, the first point should provide a large boost, while the fourth point is meant to create a complete cohesive package, but in Arms' case, the first and fourth are significantly weaker than points 2 and 3. Moreover, Heroic Strike and Colossus Smash have no explicit interaction with one another, so this complete sense of cohesiveness remains unfound. Okay, as a result, most Arms Warriors should be skipping the 4th Apex in Midnight, and while the first 3 points are still worth using purely due to resulting damage buff, there remains a distinct lack of excitement about them. Yeah, Arms feels a bit underwhelming at the moment. I told you how I would fix the thing. I would buff again Execute, because Execute should be a super fun button to press, but right now is not. I would nerf the damage of Heroic Strike, increase the proc chance, reduce the armor penetration from 3 to 2%, and then Heroic Strike reduce the cooldown of Colossus Smash by 2 seconds, could remain and become actually strong, because at that point you will probably be able to cast another Colossus Smash before you cast again Avatar. So that would align basically perfectly. And that's...